Well, welcome everybody. This meeting is for the 8U and 10U divisions. My name's Lucia. I'm from Fitchburg. There's a number of other directors on here as well. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in at any point. But we're going to start off by going over some general expectations for all levels. And Aileen's going to share the screen. So the first thing that they want to share is that all the schedules are live and they're posted on our website. So I can drop this page in the chat. Hang on one second. Okay, and so that you can access it there, but we'll have coaches send it out after. So this gives you the link to the website where all the schedules are. Just remind parents that it's live, so they should be checking this schedule. And if they just print out a piece of paper and stick it on their fridge, it might not be current. So just remind them of that. And just kind of a few things. The schedule should be played as often as possible. We should just stick to the schedule and try to play every game that's on the schedule. If there's a rain out, we want to try to reschedule it as soon as possible. Or if there's an event that somehow pops up and it like impacts your whole team, you can change that. So like say there's a band concert for the middle school and you got to reschedule that and it's at the end of the season, you didn't know about it, right? That would be a good reason to reschedule a game. But otherwise, we want to play the games even if you don't have every single player there. And I know we all love to we don't want to play without our oldest or maybe best players sometimes, but sometimes you just got to do it. So you can call up players from the younger level. So 8U, this doesn't really apply to. But 8U can play even if you had six there. You're just going to show up and play um, because, and you can always borrow kids from the other team. 8U is pretty easy going. But 10U, if you don't have enough players, you can always call up like an 8-year-old from your 8U team to fill in so that we can get all the games played. Um, no, there's not going to be any extension to the regular season if you don't get your games in. So try to find a makeup as soon as possible um, between coaches and then let your director know. Um, and if there's any games that are not played by the end of the season, it's just going to be put in as a tie because everybody makes playoffs. Okay. Game reporting, the home field, the home team is responsible for reporting the scores, and there's directions right there. So you just go to the website, and then you have to like go to the part that says report score, and there's a little picture here. So we'll send this out later so you have it. And you just click on report score, and you enter your little password, and then you can type in the score. It's pretty easy. So we will send that out to all the coaches and directors so that you have it. Once you do it once, it's pretty standard, it's pretty foolproof. And then, Colleen, if you want to go back to the regular rules, we'll get started. Did she just drop out by mistake? Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, so these are the NCMS league rules, and we will have these. This is also posted on the website, but you'll get a copy of these. It starts with just like the towns. You can scroll down, Elaine. Um, you can go down. Okay. Oops. Here's Katie. So it just starts with like weeknight games. Warm-ups start about 5:30. You're welcome to get there earlier than that, but you have at least a half an hour before the games to warm up. Um, week Weeknight games are supposed to start at 6 p.m. And there's a 15-minute grace period. So if you're like waiting for a player or two, then you can wait that 15 minutes. Um, all softballs at all levels. This is for directors. They already know this, but they must be the raised seam balls. So make sure if you're a coach and you have your game ball, you don't like grab a random one from your bucket that's not raised seams. Um, and then no new inning should start after an hour and 45 minutes from the start of the game. We can kind of scroll. Oops. Yeah, scroll down. Um, so all players must play in at least 60% of their games in order to be eligible for playoffs. And that only applies to 10U, because 8U does not have playoffs and 8U doesn't really even keep score. It's just for learning and development. But for the regular seasons, you should be keeping track. If you have a kid that's out a lot, they're not going to be eligible to play in playoffs. And someone said in the last meeting, make sure you tell your parents, 10U coaches especially, we do have playoffs and they start as soon as the regular season is over. And it could be any day of the week. So even if your games are normally Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, um, during playoffs, you keep playing until you lose, and it could be like 1 day's notice. So you have to tell your families ahead of time to be ready for that like fast and furious kind of end of the season. If you keep winning, you keep playing, and they got to be prepared. You don't have like weeks notice. Okay. Anybody have questions about that? All right. At all the levels, the pitcher, first base, and third base have to wear a face mask and offensively, so those rippets. Honestly, at the 8U level, I had all of my girls wear that because no one likes to get hit in the face. But they have to wear it if they're pitching first and third. A player has to play for the town that they live in. Or if they school choice, there's an there, but at this point, everybody's got their teams made up anyway, so there shouldn't be any question about that. Um, no player may roster for two different teams or divisions. So you can't have someone playing in both 10U and 12U. Although you can pull up players if you need a substitute for a game here and there, but you can't have one girl playing on two teams. Um,
So for the playoffs, if there is somehow some strange event where people have an exodus for whatever reason, we could grab someone from a younger team to fill in if that
yeah,
was the case.
yeah,
Okay,
I've done it in the past. There was one year my 16U team, I only had half my actual team, and the rest of them were 12U players because I think it was like a school trip or something. I don't know. But
sure,
hopefully
yeah,
we've accounted for those. Hopefully this year that won't happen. But yeah, you can pull people up. Um, but you should be pulling up people, only enough people to make your team like to have enough to play. So
sure.
like, you know, if you only have 8, you can take 2, so you have like a sub, you have 10, but you shouldn't be pulling up extra players and not playing the players that are actually on your team. That's
Mm,
common sense, but I say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Um, so we're going to skip some of these because some of these apply to 12U and 16U. The sliding rules at this level, 8U, honestly, teach them how to slide. They're little, they love it, right? Teach them how to start sliding. 10U, we should be attempting to slide if a play is being made, right? But by the time they get to 12U, they're going to be called out. So we really want to stress teaching them to slide. Um, I'm kind of skimming this because it doesn't all apply to us. Um, So it's talking about umpires for playoffs. The championship game will be hosted by the whoever's in the lower seed. So first place team is playing the third place team. The first place team would host and be the home team. But we'll go over that when it gets closer to playoffs. If you're in a situation where you've reached the run limit in an inning, which we'll talk about run limits, you still want to let the play go to its natural end. So say you have a girl who hits a ball to the outfield and everybody's running and going crazy and she runs all the way around home, even if like her point doesn't actually factor in because you've reached the run limit, you still want to let her run it out and get, feel good about the play. So we don't just stop the play if you hit the run limit. And a team may not steal once they're up by 10 runs. So we're trying to teach sportsmanship. So we want to kind of hold them back if they're up by 10. Any questions so far?
Can they steal any base now?
Well, when we get to the 10U rules, we'll go over that real quick.
Okay,
I'm just kind of saying general rules, sorry.
no problem.
Home games, so if it's gonna rain, it's the home team's responsibility to make the call, and they have to tell the other team within an hour and 45 minutes before the game, or before 4:15 if it's during the week because people travel. So usually I tell my coaches to text your director if you're not sure about making the call, and you'd have to text your director anyway because they're gonna probably have to cancel the umpire if it's 10U. And then you try to reschedule the game within 3 days. You and the other coach find a new date, run it by your director, line up an umpire, and we'll fix the schedule. We really want to be mindful about trying to get any games in as soon as we can so that there's no leftovers at the end of the season. I'm paraphrasing, but this is all in there. I just I didn't want to read it all. Um, Yeah, and I kind of so if you don't make up games by the end of the season, 10U is the only one that has to worry about playoffs, but it just is going to go in as a tie if you honestly can't play it. But if you have like one team that's like saying no to everything and one team that's like I've been trying to reschedule. I offered them 10 dates. They keep saying no. They can't get enough players, then it could go in as a forfeit. But at that point, you should get the directors involved before it comes to that. Um, and there should be an attempt to play all regular season games. All the families have paid for this. The kids are learning. Even if you've lost every single game, like don't give up at the end and be like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You know, we've lost every game. You still play because they're still learning, right? I am going to read this part. It's the sportsmanship code. So our code of conduct, hang on, says we are trying to develop a strong, clean, healthy body, mind, and soul, develop a strong urge for sportsmanlike conduct, develop an understanding of and respect for the rules, develop courage in defeat, tolerance and modesty in victory, develop control over our emotions and speech, and develop a spirit of cooperation and team play. Develop into real, true citizens. So players and coaches are required to maintain a sense of fair play and be respectful to opposing players and coaches and spectators at all time. Um, we're not going to challenge the umpire, and especially at this level, honestly, 10U is going to have junior umpires more often than not, and those are kids too. So it's really, really important. We're not arguing with the umpire. If it's a 15-year-old kid it might be their first or second game, that could happen. And we're not gonna like constantly be like, that was a strike, this was that. Like, we're not doing that. That's like harassing the kid, right? The kid is learning too. You have to keep that in mind and be the adult. And in this situation, in 10U especially, if you hear any parents chirping at the umpire and it's a junior umpire, it is your job as a coach to tell that parent to knock it off, right? It doesn't happen often, but it has happened. It's your job to step in and be like, you know what, this is a kid umpire. They're learning too. Just cut it out, right? It's a game. It doesn't matter. It's not that deep. Um, and then as far as if there is a true question, right? You guys, there's a rule or something happens and you have to come together and talk to the umpire, you call a timeout, both coaches come over and talk to the umpire in a respectful way, in a calm tone to clarify the rule. Anybody have questions about that? Okay. The kids at this age love to sing those softball chants and the songs, and as annoying as they can be, it is part of the game and it's fun. So that's fine. Just make sure that they're not singing anything like inappropriate. There's a couple of those songs or chants that they might have heard from older siblings that are not very nice. Okay. Keep your ears open and squash the songs that are rude or putting down the other team. And if you have any major sportsmanship issues at this level, you would submit it in writing to the NCMS, so your director, and they can forward it to the board. If there's any like serious situation that happens, you need to put it in writing.
No, there's one in the fridge. Don't open that.
Oh, somebody's
What?
not on mute. Sorry. Somebody's not on mute.
Oh, that's
Oh,
me. Sorry.
It's okay. Um, okay, so Anybody have questions so far? Okay. 8U. 8U is very easy. The games are scheduled Saturdays, either 10 or 11, and I think we have some weeknight games in there too. Um, the innings are 6 innings, but honestly, if you don't make it to 6 innings, that's probably what's going to happen every time. You're probably not going to get there. You might get 3 innings. The whole team bats. Okay, so one whole team goes through their whole order, and then you switch. You're playing with the 11-inch raised seam safety ball. So the squishy balls, make sure they have a little squish to them. There's no stealing and no bunting in 8U. They may take a lead after the ball passes home plate if you want to teach them to take leads. Um, every player is in that batting order and will get an at bat every inning. So even if you make 3 outs, um, which doesn't usually happen, but say you do make 3 outs, you're still going to bat your whole lineup and before you switch. That's just how we do it at EU. The only thing is if players do actually make an out, they throw the ball to first, they make the out, we are telling that player to go sit down because they're out, right? They have to learn what the outs are. Batters and runners are only running one base at a time unless they hit it really far. And if they hit it to the outfield, let them run a little bit extra. 2 bases, right? Coaches can substitute kids around in and out of the game freely from position to position freely. The pitching distance is 35 feet technically, but if you're a coach, um, you can you can take a few steps forward. You can pitch from like whatever distance is comfortable for you that you can throw strikes because you're pitching to the kids. But don't stand like 2 feet away from them, like be a reasonable distance back. You can't strike out your own players. So the kids are going to get 4 pitches or 3 swinging strikes. And after that, then we just put a tee in place and then they can hit off the tee. Okay. So they're not ever striking out. If they swing and miss 3 times, put a tee down, and just kind of stick to that because otherwise you'll get stuck there throwing balls all night and you can't give every player 10 balls. It's 4. Okay. Um, softball skills should be taught and developed at this age. The defensive team may attempt to make an out at any base or tag the runners, right? They're learning the games, and if the offensive player is out, they're gonna go back to the dugout. We don't keep any official score. You can keep like your own scorebook if you want to, just to kind of keep track of things, but there's no like winning or losing at the end of this game. But you can like keep track of what you need to work on at practice. There's a maximum of 10 players in the field defensively, but they should be at normal positions. So third base, shortstop, second base, first base, pitcher. The pitcher stands right directly next to the coach who is actually pitching because the coach that's pitching doesn't touch the ball. The player can get it. And then you can put a couple extras in the outfield or in the outfield, but you can't have like extras in the infield. Does that make sense?
Just one thing on the 8U, the very first thing
Oh,
for coaches, keep in mind that it did say, it's typically like Saturdays. I think to help maximize schedule and get the most playing time and stuff like that. I think possibly a year or so ago they added some weeknight games. What they tried to do is keep that very local to either if you're playing your own town or a town that's very close. Um, I know in my town, I think we advertise just Saturdays. So I'll take the blame for that. But there are some weeknight games. So just keep that in mind. I know for my town, there's no conflict with field schedules or anything like that. But just keep in mind that it's not just Saturdays for games.
yeah. And I mean, I haven't coached in a few years at that level, but if the kids are like over it and you've only played 3 innings, but you still have time and they're like bored and like you as the two coaches can decide like this is going to be the last time. And that's fine, right? It's a learning experience. It's not that deep. Um, yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions about 8U?
I was just gonna add, someone put in the chat about the times that were
Yeah,
listed. Those times aren't set in stone from this rule. Someone said there's one or two noon games. Is that okay? Yeah, that's
yeah,
whatever was scheduled. Those are the times.
Yeah.
right.
You gotta make
Um,
it work with all the different
All the
towns, all the
teams.
different leagues and stuff like that. So
right.
it's, yeah.
Oh, I just looked in the chat too, so I'm just oh, you know what? I want to mention this just because I've coached AE before. You can have a catcher. Some teams choose to have a catcher and they dress up a catcher in a gear and it's cute. If the if the pitcher, if the adult coach pitches and the catcher misses the ball, just let them leave it at the backstop, right? I always had my coaches like have 3 or 4 balls on them so that you can get through it quickly. If the catcher catches it, sure, she can throw it back to you. That's fine. But if she misses it, we don't need her to like wait for her to get up and go chase the ball 100 times because that slows the game way down. So just have a couple extra balls and kind of do it that way. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? No, that's pretty good. And honestly, if you say you have, I know my AU team has like 9 or 10 players, I think 10. But say there's a couple absent and you show up to the field and parents didn't tell you and you only have 6 or 7, that's okay. Just put them on the field and play. If the other team has like 12 and you only have 6, they can put some kids in the outfield too. Like you can make it work and be flexible. It's AU, they're just learning. So be fun, like have fun and let the kids play. There's no forfeit at AU unless you like literally had no one and then you would have to call and reschedule.
And honestly, 6 or 7 is an ideal number.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Right. You get 4 in the infield or 5 in the infield and 2 in the outfield, that's fine. Totally fine. All right. Any AU questions? Okay. Ben, do you want to do the 10U or you want me to keep going?
You're doing great. Keep going.
All right. All right. So 10U. Games are scheduled Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. Again, the Tuesday, Thursday time will be 6 o'clock. The Saturday times might change a little bit depending on field availability. You will attempt to play 6 innings, right? At the beginning of the season, you're never gonna get to 6. It gets dark early, but that's what we're shooting for, 6. We play with an 11-inch ball, but it's a regular softball. It's not the soft one. Players may take a lead upon the release of the pitch. If the player leaves early and is safe, the player must return to the base. If the player leaves early but is out, if they're tagged out at any point, they're out. So the umpire is going to kind of remind them not to leave early. The mercy rule. So we have per inning, 4 runs per inning. And like I said earlier, if somebody smashes one to the outfield, you let them run it out, but you only put 4 in the scorebook. Keep checking with the other team in between innings to make sure that you both have the same score. The 6th inning is unlimited runs. So after 3 innings or later, if it's getting dark or whatever reason you decide this is going to be the last inning, if both coaches and the umpire agree, you have to all come together and say this is going to be the last inning, then that's the unlimited inning. Pitching distance is 35 feet from the back tip of home plate to the front of the pitching rubber. Pitchers are limited to 6 innings per calendar week. So we go from Monday to Sunday. They can only pitch 6. So you can split them up. I would suggest you have multiple pitchers in every game. So you have one girl pitch 2 and another girl pitch 4, or you have 3 girls pitch 2 innings each, whatever you need to do. But we're trying to develop pitching at this level. So, all batters should make an effort to avoid being hit by a pitch. However, if a batter is hit directly, like it doesn't bounce, or if it's a single, like a hard bounce, then they'll get to go to first base, right? But they should be making an attempt to get out of the way. And the umpire has the right to call a dead ball and the coach can't overrule that. Okay, so they should make an attempt, but if they're hit, they do get first. All right, so this is where they get tricky. You're gonna have to keep these rules nearby. A base runner may attempt to steal one base at a time. They can steal second or third, and the catcher can attempt to throw out the runner. The runner cannot advance to the next base on an overthrow or error. So if you're stealing second and the catcher throws it down and they huck it into the center field, you can't keep running. It's one base. The runner can advance if the ball's hit. So if they start stealing, right, they're stealing second, and then the ball is hit, they can go to third. Advancement on overthrows. A runner may attempt to advance one base on an overthrow. If an additional throw is attempted at the new base, an additional throw occurs. So every single time somebody makes a mistake, they can take an extra base. So you need to really teach your kids, just get it back to the pitcher. They throw it to first and overthrow it. Throw it to second, overthrow it. Throw it to third, overthrow it. Now you've given the girl a home run. Don't do that. One overthrow, get back to the pitcher. But that's how the rule is stated. Does anybody have questions? Okay. The only exception to that rule, again, is the catcher. So if the catcher is attempting to throw somebody out on a steal, it doesn't matter. They can't advance more than one.
So if the ball comes from right field to third base and it goes an overthrow, actually they get home on the overthrow, but the other person could not go to third on that. Yeah, I got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Hang on one second. I lost my screen.
Sorry.
I have a question. Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah.
So just real quick, because I'm not sure I can read this the right way. I see advancement on overthrows, but can you clarify what a steal is versus an advancement on overthrow?
Yes. Craig, can you turn that down? Sorry, I had to move rooms. I was sitting in the dark. So a steal is, like the batter hasn't hit the ball. The runner is going from first to second, trying to steal the base. If the catcher throws it, we're trying to have the catchers learn, right? And most of the time, they're not going to make a good throw. So you can't take more than one base on that. An overthrow would be a batted ball. Somebody hit the ball and they're trying to make a play at any base. If they overthrow, then that runner can try to get to the next base. If they're tagged out, they're out, but they can try, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. Pardon my ignorance, but so
No.
we can steal on the release of a pitch. Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't steal home at this level.
Because in the past, we haven't done that, so we've always just done pass balls. But
Yeah.
that's good to know, I guess.
Well, because we used to do like they can take a lead after it reaches the plate, and it's like confusing for the girls that play up. Like we just tried to like keep it the same. Okay. At any point in the game, if a player is off the base and tagged out, we know that they're out. Except if the umpire tells them to go back or something, they'll call timeout. It is a continuous batting order, so all the players are going to be placed in a batting order, and they don't come out of the game unless they're hurt and can't continue. So it's a continuous order. Every player in the team must participate in the game for a minimum of 6 outs. So 2 innings. Every player has to play 2 innings. And honestly, this is my suggestion, but at 10U, in the beginning of the season, you might not play more than 4 innings. So make your plan before the game to get everybody in those first 4 innings. And then you can do what you want after that, right? So that you know that you've got a plan for everybody to get in those 2 innings. They don't have to be consecutive innings. They can be like first inning and third inning, whatever. Bunting is allowed. So only 2 walks, and we're not counting hit by a pitch. We're counting just regular balls. 2 walks are allowed per inning. After the second walk, If the batter receives a fourth ball, like they would be walking again, they stay there and the coach comes in and finishes the batter. So it's the coach, it's the offensive coach. So your team's up to bat, you would come in and pitch to them. The umpire will call strikes while the coach is pitching. But the batter is not allowed to walk off of a coach. So they either have to strike out or hit. And the girl who is pitching will remain near or in the circle, the pitching circle, and she's fielding the balls. The coach is not allowed to touch the ball other than pitching. Make sense? All right. If at any point, even if they have two walks, if they're hit by a pitch when they're attempting the third time, the third batter, then you still get to go to first. All right. For safety of all players, any pitcher who hits 5 batters in a single game has to be taken out for the rest of the game. They can come back the next game and try it again, right? We want them to keep pitching, but 5 batters and they have to come out. She can play any other position, right? But she just can't pitch for the remainder of that game. Again, umpires would be scheduled for these games. Please remember that they're kids and they're still learning. We already talked about that. If a player becomes injured after safely reaching a base, a courtesy runner might be put in to run for the injured player. So like they get to first, they trip and fall and hurt their wrist and they're crying. You can put in a courtesy runner. But if this girl is not able to like run on her own, like she twisted her ankle and she can't run at all on her own, she has to be removed from the batting order for the remainder of the game. A courtesy runner may also be put into the game for the catcher if there's 2 outs, because the catcher needs to put their gear on and it just slows everything down.
Can I ask a question on that? So,
Yeah.
just to clarify, so say for instance, the catcher's on second. I mean, it's 2 outs. The catcher hit a double. We can put a courtesy runner for that catcher so they can put the equipment on.
Yes, but it has to
Perfect.
be the last out of the inning goes in for them.
Perfect. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yep. I think I skipped something. Hold on. Yeah, it must be the player that was last out. Yep. Okay. 10 players may be used if mutually agreed upon before the game. So you and the other coach decide, yeah, we'll play 10. The extra player has to be in the outfield. You're playing 4 outfielders. You're not sticking another random extra person in the infield because we're trying to teach them the right positions. And that's like if both teams have a lot of players, both team has a big roster, you can play 10. At this level, we're expected to teach the correct positions and responsibilities. For example, the second baseman or shortstop should be covering second on an attempted force out at second. The outfielders should only be the backup. So you can't like put your 4th outfielder standing directly behind second base and run in and just cover second. That's not a real position. So we're not doing that. Okay. 4 outfielders are outfielders. They can be backup or whatever, right? A secondary position, but we want to teach the real game. The goal is to play each game as scheduled. If a team only has 7 players, a player from the opposing team can fill in an open position, or the team can field 7 with no forfeit, right? At this level, we're still trying to do what it takes to play the game, right? We don't want to have to forfeit at 10U level. So if the other team agrees, just throw a couple of your outfielders out there. Who cares? They're learning. It's fine. It's only a game. Can you scroll? Oh, that's the end of 10U. Perfect. Does anybody have specific questions about those rules? Silence is a good thing, but I'm just going to add. So the NCMS rules are the ones that we've all agreed upon, all the towns that are playing in this league. So you might get a Babe Ruth rule book that says something different. We're going by if we say something in our rules that trumps the Babe Ruth rules. This is the rules that we're playing by. Even if Babe Ruth says you can steal home, we're not stealing home. We've decided we're not doing that as a league. But you might want to look at that rule book as a reference. So if there's some other weird rule that you don't know about, like something with bunting or I don't know what it is, but you can reference that rule book as well. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? I might have skipped over it, but it's just kind of standing out in my mind. If for some reason your game gets called in the middle of a game because of darkness or weather, like it starts pouring in the middle of your game and you're in a half inning, the score goes back to what it was at the last full inning. That's definitely in the rules, but I might have glanced over it when I was reading. And you'll have all these rules to read yourself too. All right. Nobody with questions?
Hey, Lucia, I had one
Yep.
for pitchers. I didn't see it in the rules, but if you take the starter out, can you put her back in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there like she can't go back in the same inning or?
No, it's,
No.
I mean, if she already walked, no.
Right.
If she hit 5 batters, no.
If she hits
Yeah.
5 batters,
Yeah,
then you can't
absolutely.
play
I
that
wouldn't
game.
put her back in anyway.
Yeah.
Under that.
But no, and every new batter after that, they get to try again. So if they walk to
Yes.
the third batter, they try and they walk, the coach comes in, finishes that batter. Then the fourth batter comes in, the pitcher gets to try it again, right? And then if they walk that one, then the coach finishes. So you should be ready. You should have, a coach ready on standby, ready to jump in and pitch those innings to make them kind of go quicker. But she gets to keep trying.
Yeah. No, I was just more thinking about taking her out and then putting her back in later in the
Yeah.
game.
If you start a girl for 2 innings, somebody else pitches two, and then you get to the fifth inning, and you're like, "Wow, we're gonna play five today." Yeah, you can put her back in. That's fine.
Keep in mind the inning count. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, innings per week. You have to
Yep.
keep count of innings per week.
Right.
So, yep. And then, all right, then other than that, I feel like we're good. We'll probably touch base closer to playoffs to kind of explain how that works. But again, remind your parents that playoffs is any date and it's like a 2 week window. So if you keep winning, you keep playing. Okay. And that's you only. Yep.
I just want to go over those two Babe Ruth rules we're not adopting.
Sure.
We discussed this as a board. The first rule was Babe Ruth was going to be adding at the end of a game, if it ended in a tie, they would have a runner on second, and you would play one more inning to see if you could determine a winner. We're not doing that. We're doing the rule that was in the rule books that Lucia just went over. The second one was a courtesy runner. Uh, Babe Ruth is going to allow a courtesy runner every time the pitcher or catcher reaches base. We're not doing that. We're doing the rules that we just went over in the NCMS rulebook
Right. So only the catcher, only if there's two outs
or an injury.
or an injury. Yeah. Yep. All right. And just, again, I can't emphasize enough that this is a game at this level. We're trying to teach the kids. And I know we all like to win, but we're being polite to each other and standing up for the umpires. And it's only a game. So teach your kids to keep their head high if they lose and to be a good sport if they win. Right? All right. Thank you, everybody. If no one has any more questions, you can have a nice night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.